Welcome vinyl community. It's 2021 January and today I'm looking back at some impulse buys, random purchases and other acquisitions to my music collection from 2020. So a bit of a retrospective look back, and these are in no particular order. So we'll just get started and I'll show you some of the records that were added to my collection. So first up, after the initial lockdown in the UK, and we were allowed to go, well, non-essential shops, but of course, all vinyl record shops are essential to you and I, but the government didn't think so. But when these shops were opened again, I had a trip to a shop called Made in Vinyl, or Made in Vinyl, on Rosemount Viaduct in Aberdeen. They're a great store for second-hand records, but they also do some good new editions as well. And of course, they're part of Record Store Day. So this was an album by the great Bonnie Raitt, and I'd heard this before. I think my brother had a copy of this, and it's called Taking My Time. It's got an interesting gatefold. I think this is an illustration of, I think it's Grand Central Station in New York. I might be wrong, but this has got some great blues tunes on it. They've got Write Me a Few of Your Lines and Kokomo Blues, as well as Guilty, which was a track that the Blues Brothers did in the original movie, the great movie, with the Blues Brothers and featuring guest appearances of Ray Charles and Aretha Franklin and others. Fantastic movie. Lots of police cars from Chicago being crashed in the course of the film. And also featuring Carrie Fisher as well. But Bonnie Raitt did a cover of Guilty on this album, and we've got Washi Go Do, and yeah, there's Cry Like a Rainstorm and Let Me In. Great album. That's the reverse of the cover. On that same trip, I got Steel Wheels by the Rolling Stones. And on this, we've got Sad, 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 Mixed Emotions, Hearts for Sale. That's a really nice track. And Rock in a Hard Place, amongst others. And the Keith Richard vocal on Slipping Away. Now, I remember seeing Niels Lofgren in concert at the Music Hall in Aberdeen, round about the time that this was released. And he said, wow, the Stones are back on form with this new album, Steel Wheels. You see another of my paintings that I did during lockdown. It's a homage to the Ford GT40. And this is on one of the streets at Le Mans with a Porsche in the background as well. So not quite the Ford versus Ferrari, but Ford versus Porsche. Next up, I had this on CD. This is one of my last purchases of 2020. And it was Icky Thump by the White Stripes. So yeah, Icky Thump's on here, and Conquest, and Bone Broke, and Effect and Cause, which is the lyric of Effect and Cause is very interesting. So again, great artwork on a White Stripes album. and I believe the last White Stripes album. Next up, we have Creedence Clearwater Revival, one of the best swamp boogie bands of all time. Well, rock and roll bands. And until this was released, I think I was blissfully unaware that Creedence Clearwater Revival were one of the headline acts at the Woodstock Festival, the 3 days of, was it peace music and something else? But yeah, so I wasn't aware that they were on the bill. And I think there were some contractual reasons why they didn't want any footage of their performance on the film. So they're obviously not on the triple album either. But a great set. You've got Born in the Bayou, Green River, 99.5 Won't Do, as well as Bad Moon Rising, Proud Mary, and side 4 of this album has a really long version of Susie Q. So highly recommended album. I think it was first released in 2020, and I got this, I think, about a week before lockdown was announced. So Creedence Clearwater Revival. Sea Change by Beck. This has got some fabulous songs on it. A very interesting gatefold artwork with all sorts of information about the tracks on this. So we've got Golden Age, Paper Tiger, Already Dead, Side of the Road. And I think this was maybe change in direction, sea change. But I think, you know, Odelay and even the new album from 2020 is, you get something different on each Beck record. So he keeps his fans wanting more, I think, by trying different things with different collaborations. So that's Beck, Sea Change. Next up is American Epic. And I think going back to Beck, there is a sister album to this. This is the soundtrack. There's a sister album called The Sessions, and Beck records with a gospel choir using equipment from the 1920s. And yeah, he has to grapple with the technology and the fact that there's no faders for the gospel choir's vocals to be slightly lower than his. So they did umpteen takes of it. But this has got an interesting gatefold with lots of adverts and photographs from different recording groups that feature on, I think there was maybe a 3 or 4 part television series. You'll be able to see it on YouTube as well. So Robert Redford and T-Bone Burnett and Jack White were producers of it. There's a really nice book that goes with it as well. But we've got everything from Frankie by Mississippi John Hurt. You've got Mal Hombre by Lydia Mendoza, and Cocaine Habit Blues by Hattie Hart and the Memphis Jug Band, and right through to Waiting for a Train by Jimmy Rogers. And I think there's all these are sort of recorded from the 20s, 30s, maybe 40s. But there's also Joel Blon by the Bro Brothers with Louis Michaud. Lots of good music from all around the United States. And there's even sort of Hawaiian guitars on this. Highly recommended. The Next Day by David Bowie, 2013, after a lull of several years, we have Bowie back to form. And yeah, Valentine's Day, You Feel So Lonely You Could Die, and You Will Set the World on Fire, as well as The Next Day and The Stars Are Out Tonight. 2013, Bowie back to form. I really like the blues and its various subgenres. And this was a record from Red Robin Records in the centre of Aberdeen on Correction Wind. And this is the Big Bad Blues. And Billy F. Gibbons, obviously from ZZ Top. He hasn't shaved off the beard and he hasn't let the blues rock vibe go either. So this is, I think a lot of, I think most of these tracks are actually Billy Gibbons compositions, apart from maybe Rolling and Tumbling. But yeah, really nice selection this. And inside you get some nice photograph of Billy Gibbons and yeah, all the details of the tracks that are on here as well. And there's a poster too. Look at that beard. This one is actually released in 2020 and it's Song Machine from Gorillaz. So Damon Albarn of Blur. And this one's in orange vinyl and it's got tracks such as The Pink Phantom featuring Elton John and is it Sealac or Sixlac? And you've got The Valley of the Pagans featuring Beck and lots of collaborations on this. Really nice artwork as well. And I think there's Michelangelo's David, the statue that you find in Florence on the back, as well as the cartoon animated characters that feature in any Gorillaz show at all. Really great stuff. I really loved Plastic Beach, and I think that the Song Machine is every bit as good as that. And then I showed this on Vinyl Tag 2021. This is Malcolm McLaren's Waltz Darling. So a mashup between Strauss and the waltzes and some interesting vocals to go with it and a sort of hint of sort of Frankie Goes to Hollywood guitar licks, etc. Really good album. This one of my favorite album covers of all time. Then I have Peter Green's, it's Peter Green Splinter Group, and this album's called the Best of Peter Green Splinter Group. And of course, Peter sadly passed away during 2020. I think I actually bought this about 2 weeks before he actually passed away, but this has got fantastic versions of Fleetwood Mac classics such as Albatross and Man of the World. And we've also got Sweet Home Chicago featuring Paul Rodgers, who was, of course, the great vocalist with Free, and also had a spell as the vocalist with Queen following the passing of Freddie Mercury. some great guitar playing on this. And yeah, Otis Rush features on I'm a Steady Rolling Man. And we also have Dr. John on From 4 Till Late. The cover of Sweet Home Chicago, but there's also Love in Vain Blues, which is Robert Johnson's great masterpiece as well. And during lockdown, I also watched a really good documentary about Miles Davis. So this is Miles Ahead by Miles Davis. And this one has the controversial cover of the white woman on the yacht. And I think according to the documentary, I don't think Miles Davis was very pleased with this album cover. And I think he said words to the effect of, what's that white bitch doing on the cover of my album? And therefore there's a alternative cover with, I think, a portrait of Miles Davis on the cover instead. But yeah, we've got the Duke, Miles Ahead, the Maids of Cadiz, as well as Blues for Pablo, and The Meaning of Blues on this. So an album from, I believe, 1957. And yeah, this is ahead, chronologically before Kind of Blue, but this shows the direction that Miles is going in. And then the best cover of 2020, Sturgill Simpson riding his lawnmower and Cutting Grass, which is a bluegrass collection of lots of Sturgill Simpson's folk songs. Great photo of the band on the back of the gatefold. And I think one of the more famous songs is All the Pretty Colors. So Bluegrass and Cutting Grass Volume 1. So there may be more to come in 2021 or later. And highly recommended bluegrass album. I'll show some more vinyl in a second, but I wanted to show some other acquisitions music-wise. This was great value for money. And being an Aberdonian, so Aberdonians are to people from Scotland the same as Scottish people are to people from all over the rest of the world. Up there with Yorkshiremen and the Dutch, but Aberdonians are supposed to be very mean and very careful with their money. And I got this for $4.99, and it's 4 classic albums from, well, 2 each from Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters. So you've got Howlin' Wolf, Moaning in the Moonlight, and Howlin' Wolf, Howlin' Wolf. And then you've got Muddy Waters sings Big Bill Broomsey and Muddy Waters at Newport. This is produced by a company called Avid Entertainment. And I think they've bought rights for a lot of blues, jazz, rockabilly albums, and they're reissuing them in 1 CD with, or I think it's maybe 2 CDs, but 4 albums on the one collection at very reasonable prices. So, Howlin' Wolf, we've got Smokestack Lightning and Moaning for My Baby, as well as Spoonful and Backdoor Man, and Wang Dang Doodles on here as well, and the Red Rooster, and Muddy Waters and the Bill Broomsey collection. He sings Double Trouble and Lonesome Road Blues. And on the at Newport, he does I've Got My Mojo Working, and Baby Please Don't Go, which I think The Who covered as well. One of the people that record collectors should get to know is someone called Joe Buzzard, and I think he's got one of the best 78s collections in the world. He used to go around various towns and sort of backwaters, maybe around the Appalachians and further afield in the 50s and 60s, and got a lot of original pressings of some of the blues greats and also early jazz as well. So when I found that Phonotone was a record company that Joe Buzzard had owned, I thought, oh, this will be good stuff. It's maybe part of his collection that's on these, I think it's 6 CDs, 4 or 6 CDs. And I thought, I have to have this. But it was actually Joe and his friends recording music, sort of early music or music that he liked. So it's got jug bands and blues and banjo and early jazz. And it's a great collection. And I think there's also a great booklet inside, as well as all these 6 CDs. And there's a book inside. And you'll find that some of these guys on the recordings are come up again and again in duos and quartets, etc. And there's also, get some postcards. And I think that's Joe Buzzard there with his pipe and guitar. So it's great. And just to help you with drinking your beer when you're listening to this great music, you get a free bottle opener with the collection. Some great music. So, and then I think on the inner lead of the leaf of the cigar box container is a photo of an illustration of Joe Buzzard. Look him up on YouTube, and he's a great storyteller as well as a great record collector. And I hope that, well, he wasn't sure if he wanted his collection of 78s to go to the Library of Congress, because it's a collection that merits that. But he wants to make sure that the music actually gets played and listened to. The description to the video was sort of impulse buys and other acquisitions. So acquisitions without buying. So I was very fortunate during the lockdown. My sister-in-law, she had been doing a bit of tidying because of the time allowed, or the time that we all had to spend in lockdown. So she was tidying out some of her vinyl records. She let me have a look through her 33 1/3 LP collection. And so I've acquired all these. The first one up is Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water. So yes, Paul Simon's a great songwriter. Art Garfunkel and Paul Simon are a great harmony duo. So yeah, classic album this. Not a bad track on it. You've got Bridge Over Troubled Water, El Condor Pasa, Cecilia, You're Breaking My Heart, Keep the Customer Satisfied, So Long, Frank Lloyd Wright, The Boxer, Baby Driver, The Only Living Boy in New York, Why Don't You Write Me, Bye Bye Love, which is a cover of the classic Everly Brothers. I think the Everly Brothers toured with Simon and Garfunkel in the 80s, and Song for the Asking. So the lyrics on this are just fantastic, and the harmonies are too. So thank you to Alicia, my sister-in-law, for giving me these records. Next up, we have Hair and original cast recording. And next up, we have The Graduate. So this is a soundtrack to the film starring Dustin Hoffman, Anne Bancroft, and Catherine Ross. And this has got Mrs. Robertson. We've got Scarborough Fair with the Anticle and Sounds of Silence. And there's some good sort of dance music, Sun Porch Cha-Cha-Cha, and the Singleman Party Foxtrot. Now, John Williams. You've got two John Williams. You have the Oscar winner composer and composer of Star Wars and Superman and E.T. and Schindler's List, etc. And then you've got the sort of British John Williams, who's a wonderful classic Spanish classical guitar music player, and he's very talented as well. So this is a collection of the best of John Williams. Next up, I have Rock Follies. And viewers from the UK will remember Rock Follies as a show in the late 70s, or mid to late 70s, and has starred Julie Covington and Rula Lenska, as well as Charlotte Cornwell. And it was a TV series about three young women trying to make it big in the music industry and their trials and tribulations. But it had some great songs in it. There was a great one, Glenn Miller is Missing, and also a tribute to Biba Nova, a sort of fashion and makeup house in London in the 60s, and Rock Follies. And they also do Sugar Mountain in this as well. Rula Lenska went on to be a character in the soap opera Coronation Street. And of course, the vinyl community members will remember Julie Covington's version of Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. Now, my sister-in-law was a big Beatles fan. And this is the Beatles Ballads, which is a great collection, actually. I think this is, the cover art is done by a guy that I think also did the cover of Jerry Rafferty's City to City. But this is a great collection, actually. We've got Yesterday, Norwegian Wood, Nowhere Man, Across the Universe, Hey Jude, You've Got to Hide Your Love Away, Something, Fool on the Hill, Here Comes the Sun, Blackbird, Here, There and Everywhere, and Let It Be. So an interesting story. My nephew got interested in the Beatles through listening to music by his mother that was part of his mother's collection. But he got into Sergeant Pepper's via the soundtrack to the, now was it the Bee Gees and Michael Jackson and Peter Frampton did covers of all the songs from Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. So I had to quickly intervene and let my nephew know that, no, that's not the one that you want to appreciate. You want to get the original Beatles album, not Michael Jackson messing it up. I'm not sure if my sister-in-law was more a John Lennon than a Paul McCartney fan, but I also acquired Double Fantasy from her collection. So yes, very poignant, the Double Fantasy album that was released just before John Lennon was murdered over 40 years ago. But this has got wonderful songs such as Beautiful Boy, Darling Boy, and Woman, and Watching the Wheels. And I think that's the rear photo is outside the Dakota building in New York as well. And then the final album I want to show, again, a present from my sister-in-law, and it's Imagine, and that is John Lennon's sort of wonderful solo album with that iconic track Imagine on it. Jealous Guy, that's another fantastic track, and Give Me Some Truth, and How Do You Sleep? I think the message to, I was going to say a guarded message, but a less than guarded message to Paul McCartney for being responsible for breaking up the Beatles. And speaking about John Lennon, I need to go back to the CDs that I bought in 2020, and I got the Give Me Some Truth with the remastered versions of lots of John Lennon solo classics. And there's the poster. Not a very big poster, but a poster nonetheless, all-sided, which you could get framed if you desired. But yeah, you've got Instant Karma, you've got Jealous Guy, How Do You Sleep, Oh Yoko, you've got Whatever Gets You Through the Night, Stand By Me, the wonderful cover of the Benny King song, Watching the Wheels, Happy Christmas, War Is Over, Give Peace a Chance. So I hope you've enjoyed watching me rambling on about a diverse selection of music that I acquired during 2020. So it was a terrible year with the pandemic, but I think a lot of us vinyl junkies were able to add to our collections because we weren't spending money on other things. So I'll be back with another video before too long. Bye just now.